There was this moment, it felt like forever. The words were just hanging in the air. Some of the most powerful words that anyone can say to another person. Ufarasta kanafecha al amatecha. I should probably translate that for you. Let's just say it means, I love you. The words I love you were just hanging out there in the air. The silence was palpable. The vulnerability, gut-wrenching. The worst kind of pit you could possibly feel in a stomach. I just said, I love you. Oh my God, they're not saying anything. It's been like 3 seconds. I knew the minute we met. Okay, now it's been like 5 seconds. Did they not hear me? Are they just processing? Do they not love me back? And if they don't say it now, will they ever really have my back? The setting. A late afternoon in Jerusalem, some 3,000 years ago. In one of the more emotionally moving accounts in the whole Torah, the entire Bible. The events occurred during the period of the Judges, about a century before David became king of Israel. Prequels continue to be very popular. Set in the midst of great hardship and tragic loss, a tumultuous time not unlike today. It is a story about loyalty and faithfulness, in stark contrast to the pagan culture in which they lived. Our rabbis read into the tale examples of God's closeness, God's believability in their lives, often using very unexpected partners and experiences, working in amazing and hidden ways. Our ancient sages tell us a love story. As the narrative unfolds, you come to realize that it's more than just a story that's shared between the love of two people. Ultimately, it's about God's amazing love for all humankind, including a desire for us to not only experience that love for ourselves, but also to reach out and display it in such a way that the love is made known to all those who are hurting and hungry. Ufarasta kanafecha al amatecha. Literally, it means, spread the corner of your garment over me. It's euphemistic, so it has several interpretations. It's often read as an expression of friskiness, if you know what I mean, but this is a family place and you're listening to a G-rated sermon. The phrase is typically considered a more formal, romantic proposal. Please take me as your partner in life, forever. Or as we would say it, will you marry me? An invitation dripping with vulnerability. The word for corner in Hebrew, kanaf, also means wings. So what is really most likely being said is, protect me. Safeguard me like a bird protects her young. I feel exposed because I love you. Share with me your affection. Spread over me your protection. Let it envelop me like a tallis, a prayer shawl, so that I feel safe. Truth be told, the whole Torah is a love story, if we were to just read it that way. Before I tell you the end of the story, or at least where it leaves off, let me share with you quickly what this sermon is not about. It's not about current events. The world is a very busy place. So we host a weekly conversation here at Micah, Schmooze and Views, where we talk politics and all sorts of things, and all voices and all perspectives are always welcome. I've only got like another 10 or 12 minutes to touch your hearts, so forgive me for not discussing the state of our economy, the upcoming midterm elections, the bifurcation of our country, or the Russian invasion of Ukraine, all compelling topics. Your rabbi could go on and on passionately about Israel or the environment or anti-Semitism. There are numerous worthy topics that deserve our attention this year. For the next 24 hours, we Jews leave the outside world outside, and we enter a world inside ourselves. That is what this sermon is about. How we might best explore, in very open, honest, and vulnerable ways, our own feelings, so that we can re-engage the world with a fresh perspective and renewed energy and with clear intentions. Exploration of the self requires opening ourselves up and sort of taking a look under the proverbial hood. Modern American life discourages introspection. We run unceasingly through a swirl of events and personalities that mark our lives. Like with the Torah and its stories, there is usually more going on than we realize, beneath the surface. Most of us scrutinize ourselves only in extreme moments, times of trial or catastrophe. Rarely do we calmly resolve to hold a looking glass up to our own souls. Eyes unwavering, examine what it is we have done with our gifts, our obstacles, and our opportunities. How can we know what we might accomplish without knowing the powers and temptations inside our own hearts? According to the ancient rabbis, the purpose of all the mitzvot in the Jewish tradition, all the laws and the customs and the spiritual disciplines, are all meant to refine us as human beings. So tonight we focus not on what it means to be American, but rather what it means to live a Jewish life. In America, you are not required to offer food to the hungry or to comfort the infirm. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say you have to provide clothing for the poor. These are values we derive from another sacred document, the Torah. American law is based on rights, right? The Bill of Rights. Jewish law is about obligations. The 10 Commandments on our ark is not a Bill of Rights. It may sound like law, but you don't go to jail for disrespecting your parents, cheating on your spouse, or coveting your neighbor. As Americans, we ask, what do I have the right to do? As Jews, we ask, what is my obligation? To myself, to others, to the community, to God. You can be a good citizen and a rotten human being, right? You pay your taxes and you drive under the speed limit, but you're not nice, so nobody wants to hang out with you. Judaism understands that you can be a scoundrel even if you obey the law. Subsequently, the Torah says you have to be holy. Being Jewish means it's not enough to obey the law. You must become the kind of person that Judaism teaches us to be. The architects of our great tradition crafted this sacred 10-day period, which started with the setting of the sun this evening. And the whole thing really comes down to this one line from the book of Ezekiel. V'natati lachem lev chadash, and I will give you a new heart. V'ruach chadasha eten bekerbechem, place a new spirit into you. V'hasiroti et lev ha'even mibasarchem, I will remove the heart of stone from your body. V'natati lachem lev basar, and I will give you a heart of flesh. Somebody call an anesthesiologist stat, because tonight you're having open heart surgery. Let me ask you a few questions, all preliminary before you go under. Do you have a next of kin, a small group of people who mean the most to you? And have you told them how you feel? It's okay if you don't. Someone from Congregation Micah's caring community will be assigned to you. Do you have spiritual insurance? This is often behind the Nashville natives' approach to the question, what church do you go to? Do you belong to Micah or any other spiritual community that will help care for you in emergencies like these? Access to support from clergy, especially in the absence of family and good friends. Also, for our records, could you please list your 3 largest mistakes and your 3 most significant accomplishments since last Rosh Hashanah? Can you comment, please, on when you feel your life is most meaningful and what brings you the most happiness? Understand that we're asking these questions just in case. Do you need to call someone and apologize? Is there any advice you'd like to leave behind as a legacy for your children, your grandchildren, our community? If you make it, and you likely will, please consider what project or goal you will take on next. Now start counting backwards from 10, 9, 8, you're out. And while you're under, you have this dream. You see someone standing at the mouth of a well, and he says, "Who carved this hole in the stone?" And a thunderous voice replies, "It is from the water which constantly falls on it day after day." You're Jewish. Don't you already know this from the verse of Torah in the book of Job? Avanim shahaku ma'im, water erodes stones. It's pretty cool how if you're Jewish, you can dream in Hebrew. Anyway, then the person in your dream reflects and realizes that this idea can apply to themselves, thinking, if something soft like water can eventually carve something hard like rock, then even more so, the wisdom of Judaism can certainly engrave itself onto my heart, which is but flesh and blood. And Talmudic legend has it, that is how and why Akiva began his studies at the age of 40, immediately rushing to attend a class to learn the Aleph Bet. And Akiva studied until becoming one of the most learned rabbis of all time, so much so that our local day school bears the Akiva name. You awake from being sedated to good news. The surgery went well. There will be some need for rehab during these next 10 days. We started by removing the stones that were surrounding your heart, the rocks that have weighed you down all year or perhaps longer. One by one, the hurts, the resentments, the anger. The morphine only took care of the regrets and the fear temporarily. You will need to continue to address them. No doubt you're in some pain. Sometimes it hurts having a heart of flesh. But it's what makes us human and holy and alive. It opens us up to the beauty and the wonder of life. The rabbi pays you a visit, and you begin to realize that Micah is like water, a community that erodes the places in your heart that have hardened like stone, softening us and bringing us into deeper relationships with ourselves, with others, and with the world. Torah, our tradition's word for wisdom, and Congregation Micah, they soften me. I mean, each time I walk through the doors of our building and into this sanctuary, my heart opens a little bit. And each time I study Torah online with fellow seekers, my heart opens a little bit. Each time I stroll past through our memorial garden into the sacred ground of our cemetery, my heart is open. Or each time I dance with small children at Tat Shabbat, or laugh with teenagers in our social hall, or share my opinion with seniors in the library, my heart is open wide. And you better believe that each time I hear Cantor Josh Goldberg or the choir make magical music, I mean, whose heart can stay close to that? The word Torah comes from the root yud resh he, or yud, meaning to permeate or penetrate. The Jewish tradition, as lived here at Micah, can pierce through the callousness we build, creating openings porous enough to let wisdom and friends and love and happiness back in. Our spiritual community is a vehicle through which we express our grief, a place where we're allowed to be vulnerable. Hey, Rabbi, how do I open my heart to someone who holds beliefs that are antithetical to what I am and to what we believe? Maybe consider the people you disagree with have their own struggles and pain, and they might not have a community like this to help guide them through it. If I had two hearts, I could use one to love and one to hate, said the great Rav Nachman of Bratslav, but I only have one heart, so I use it to love. Even still, people we love disappoint us, sometimes because of their absence. We try to protect ourselves from the hurt. It's tempting to respond to life's bruises by becoming callous or indifferent or cruel. Beyond the personal hurts, there are natural catastrophes and humanly constructed disasters, after which we turn our back on the suffering. We train ourselves not to see and not to hear and not to feel. And our souls start to shrivel. And in the process of cocooning ourselves, we lose our sensitivity to our own feelings, to the loved ones around us, and to the world of which we are a part. We lose, in the process, the feeling that we can change things and that we indeed were put here to make things better. If you look at the stars and yawn, if you see suffering and don't cry out, then God says, I created you in vain. My grandmother, Esther Feldman, Alav Hashalom, may she rest in peace, had this phrase she used to tell me. She would tell my cousins and I all the time, Philip, she would say, be careful. Be full of care. In 2 words, she advised me to watch out for myself and others. The way to say be careful in Hebrew is sim lev. It means put your heart. There's so much divisiveness in our country. I have the right to do this. I think it's better to ask, is this the considerate, kind, decent, and compassionate thing to do? This evening in post-op and during rehab this week, begin to retrain your ears to hear the cries around us, of those we don't know and of those we do. This year, open your heart and risk living life whole, embracing each other, and pledging ourselves to continue to work to make this community, all of Nashville, the whole world, a place where no one is an outsider, no one is rejected, no one is made to feel invisible. If you feel lost, if you don't know where to begin, let Micah rehabilitate you so that you feel rejuvenated. We are a place that practices forgiveness and performs acts of kindness, where we lean into the vulnerability of feeling our feelings. And you're all invited to join us on this sacred journey through time. Think about how hard it was, the vulnerability it took for the biblical character Ruth, a widow, an immigrant, to say, Ufarasta kanafecha alamatecha. Can I trust that you will protect me? Because I really need a friend. Will you be my loving and loyal partner forever? If you want to know what Boaz replied and how long it took, please join us for Yizkor services on Thursday, October 5th at 5 p.m. The sermon is a cliffhanger. I will share with you this part as a spoiler alert. their great-great-grandchild was none other than King David, whose name means beloved, which means the love story is actually about us, and it's still unfolding. The part of the story we know for sure is that your heart has work to do in order for you to live whole. All of us here in this room, everybody watching virtually, are blessed to have arrived with a working heart at this moment, alive. So let's toast it and say l'chaim. For those who do not find it difficult, I will invite you to please rise as Cantor Josh Goldberg, in his Rosh Hashanah debut, leads us in a holiday kiddush.